Welcome everybody, my name is Niene, and I'm going to have this talk, let's put it on a map, cartographic interaction. I always love the phrase, let's put it on a map, because I use it a lot in my work, and especially non-GIS people using this, and they will always shout out like, oh, like privacy regulations, we really need to put that on the map. And I'm always like really confused, like how are you going to put that on a map? But they don't mean that literally, they mean it figuratively. And that's also what I'm doing today. So we're not literally putting it on a map. I want to draw some attention to this topic of cartographic interaction. Before we start, some expectation management. I'm not an expert in this. I don't research this. This is something that is my brain waves. I try to collect throughout the years some good examples, bad examples of interactive maps that I see online. So please join in this discussion as long as we draw a little bit more attention, I think, to this topic, which we can all learn a little bit more about. I hate the beamer, it looks horrible. If you want to check out my examples, the presentation is full with URLs which you can click on and look at the original applications that I'm showing. So feel free to do that if the internet allows you to. So what is this all about? We already had some great talks about cartography, and I think they really focused on map making. I want to add something to that. I want to talk about the map use. Cartography is not only about making beautiful maps, it is also about using these beautiful maps. And I think the word use is there really important. So cartography could also be seen as a communication model. We give a message from a map maker to a map user. And again, watch that word, the map user, that's going to be really important. And maps have become more and more interactive. That means that using a map has really changed. And as a user nowadays, you don't get a static map, you don't get a paper map, you get a web page and you can click on it and you can browse through it. And you actually, a user is manipulating the map. Maps are manipulated by users. And I think this is what we can call cartographic interaction. It's not a term that I thought of, it's a term that I get from literature from Robert Roth. He is one of the few people that's writing about this topic. When I'm talking about cartographic interaction or interactive cartography in this talk, I'm talking about maps which are digital, which are interactive, map-based. So, as I already told you, there's not much to be found in literature about this, or there's no hands-on guidelines anywhere to be found. So this is all my list of things that I see. Robert Roth gives a little bit of overview of what cartographic interaction might look like. Think about manipulating the map, retrieving some information of map features. We all know we can hover over a map, click on a map, get some pop-ups. We can select some features on the map. Maybe the legend is interactive and you can filter or change the colors of the map. All about finding some more information as a user. But also think about changing the map itself. Choosing a different base map is a form of cartographic interaction. So we're really changing the context of the map that we're looking at. Maybe turning labels on and off. But also the zooming, panning, finding location, navigating is part of cartographic interaction. That I think is already there by default, so I won't be talking about that too much. What I do think is also really important to see is cartographic interaction is the menu selection. So a user can pick out from multiple layers what they are looking at, or even are able to combine multiple layers on a map. I can go on and on about this, like what could be cartographic interaction, but the question maybe is, why do I think it's so important that I want to have a talk about this? As a cartographer these days, I think we need to be more familiar with some things. Of course, we know cartography, geovisualization, information visualization. But next to that, we really need to think about interaction design, human-computer interaction, maybe some interface design, so also the dashboard around your map, and of course the user experience design. And the last one is what I want to talk about you a bit more. Because what is user experience or user experience design? It's really designing for the user, putting the experience of the user at the central design focus. What is a good user experience? A good user experience is you go to a web page, it works. You click on something, you see something happening. It works, it shows you, it gives you the right answer, you can find the information that you want, and in the end you're really happy at what you looked at and what you used. In a more official statement, we can say users should be able to have a satisfying and valuable experience with a digital interface to efficiently and effectively complete work and help being productive. I want to bring this more together, so I want to bring UX and cartography a little bit more together, because what I experienced before when working with UX designer is they don't know anything about maps. They don't think about map interaction. I literally had a design once that UX designer made a screenshot of Google Maps, pasted that in her design, and that was it. Like, they didn't think about what would happen if I click on a button or what would happen when my mouse would hover over a layer, not at all. The other way around, I also see a lot of GIS dashboards out there with horrible UX experience. So let's shake hands and let's get together. Because there is also, I think, with the amount of maps these days online, a lot of users that are not GIS people. And I think that's something for us GIS geo people that we should remember. There are a lot of users out there that don't have the same way of thinking that we're all used to. Like, they don't know how to draw a polygon on a map, that you should tell them a little bit and lead them there how to do it. For us, that might sound really logical. For a non-GIS person, this is not that easy. So when we bring these two things together, I think the goal stays the same. The user should be able to have a satisfying and valuable experience with a digital interface that contains a map to efficiently and effectively complete work and help being productive. Doesn't that sound nice? I hope you all agree with me. So, because there's no guidelines or anything out there, throughout the years I collected a lot of examples. Please, if you see some good dashboards or really horrible dashboards, let me know and I'll include it in my little collection. And I'm just going to show you, take you through some examples. So the first thing that I really wanted to talk about is performance. What we're running into as GIS developers, of course, geodata is a lot of data. It can be really large, and that means it's slow, and it could be hard to get into a web-based map. And having a slow response equals to a bad user experience. These days, people are used to having everything quick, fast, on the fly. I click on something, and I see something. So having dashboards that take ages to load is not of these times anymore. You cannot get away with this, I think. I had like reasonable internet connection when I made this screenshot. As you already also saw, this graph before, I didn't even look at it, and it's just a map with a few dots. So please, this took way too long. Yeah, the same. I did a screen capture with the disabled cache on and then refreshed the website to show you how long it takes for this application to open up and then get the data in. Yeah, there we go. And this can be done much better because look at this application. I love it. You open it and there you go. And this is the same kind of information. It's real-time information now about the wind status. I got that tip on this application from a friend of mine who surfs. And a lot of his surfing friends use this application to check out where the waves are, where the wind is. And it's an amazing application. Please check it out. There is so much information in there and it works really, really fast. So never ever say that it's not possible to have an application with a lot of information that is fast, because it's possible. If you do have an application that's a little bit slow, you can give the user a different experience. I really like this solution. I don't know if it's really well to be seen on the beamer, but I refresh this, and then in the bottom it says actually data is being loaded, but in the meanwhile, while the data is loading for the map in the background, we have a little bit of explanation about what the map is going to be like. They show us the legend with a little bit more elaborate explanation for the map later on. So the user is being kept busy. Only if it takes just a few seconds, the user will never see nothing and the user is entertained before the data gets there. Also happening with a lot of data, and what is really important, that if a user chooses to look at some data, they see that what they did is rewarded, that they did a good job. So they click on something and they immediately see what's going on. I see this going wrong a lot of times. We have so much geodata that we decide to only show it when we're really zoomed in on a map. So when we're at a really high zoom level. But then you can turn these layers on a lower zoom level, like zoomed out, and then nothing is shown. Until I zoom in on the map, then I can see the data. So this is not a good user experience. Maybe for us GIS people, this is really logical, like, oh, probably I have to zoom in because the data is on a different zoom level. But a non-GIS user is thinking like, oh, I did something wrong here, the application is not working. So don't do this. Instead, think up solutions like, for example, this. Some friends might build this application, and it shows all the parcels of the Netherlands. And again, I think the beamer is not that well. But you have a little panel in the front that says zoom in to see the data, and it even shows you a little progress bar, like how far you still have to zoom in to be able to see the parcels of the Netherlands. Because all the parcels, it's a lot of data. I like this solution. Another solution I was using is like an automatic zoom in. So this is an application with all the buildings in the Netherlands. Again, a lot of data to show when you're zoomed out. So whenever a user is clicking on the layer, the map automatically zooms in to where the data is visible. So yeah, in summary, a lot of geodata is slow. I don't agree. Please just change your technology, make sure it's fast. Maybe choose to show less or change the visualization type so your maps become faster. Or if it's really slow and you can't get around it, give your user a different visual feedback that they are doing something right and they need to wait, or even entertain them while they're waiting and show them something different. But never ever show nothing. Another concept I wanted to talk about, I have just a lot of examples, is the less is more. And this is also from Robert's broad literature. It's how more complex our interface is becoming, how less motivated the user is to use it. So if there's too much complexity, it's a failure, but also if it's maybe too simple or too easy, it's also a failure. Because we have to find that perfect balance between complexity and usability. And this is a trade-off, and the trade-off really depends also on what kind of user you are having. So always keep in mind the user. If you're designing for GIS people, please put in all the tools and all the buttons because they will understand. If you're designing for non-GIS people, make the interface a little bit less complex. And this is called the productivity paradox. So sometimes simple interfaces or multiple simple interfaces with a small set of user tasks are more productive. And I also give this always to my colleagues when they ask me like, yeah, can we add this to the dashboard and this and this and this and all these like functionalities? And I'm like, no. Do you use a spork like in your kitchen? Do you have a spoon, a fork, and a knife combined? Does anybody use this on a daily basis? Yeah. One person. Yeah. But it's the exception, right? It's really nice if you go hiking and you like need just lightweight stuff, but that's just a few people doing that. We all are used to using a knife for cutting, a spoon for scooping up liquids, and a fork for getting stuff over a plate. So we do it all the time. We use multiple smaller interfaces to be productive. It's not productive to combine them all together. And yeah, GIS people just love adding buttons and stuff. So what can we do about this? Really think about, are these features needed? So remove redundant features. And one of the features that I see a lot that I really would love people to remove. Oh no, it's not visible. Wait, there we go. Is the dark mode. So even this application, it has a button, which I also think is a really wrong location, but it has a dark mode, and you click on it, and you can choose dark, light, or system settings. Whoever uses this, did anybody ever do this? And do you think non-technical people ever try to do this? Like if it would be like a button for increasing contrast for visibility, then it's a whole different story. But using dark mode, and that's also this dashboard, it also has a button in the bottom left corner. I'm not sure if you can see it here. And it only changes a few things. So that was the first thing I said, just remove it, because nobody ever is going to use that. Because, I had a really nice GIF of a hacker here. The hacker is not showing. It's something that hackers do, dark mode, and it scares off the non-technical people. So dark mode is not that relevant.
Adobe designers like it as well.
Huh? Adobe designers?
Photoshop and Illustrator designers, yeah. They also like it.
But that's still thinking from the maker perspective, from the designer perspective or the developer, not the user perspective, which are I don't, slightly different people. But if you do have a lot to show and you do have a lot of functionality, then make sure you use the interactivity and you design it well. For example, this is just a hover over a legend, which I really liked. It just shows you a little bit more information. We can use hovers, we can use clicks to add information layers to a web page. So make use of that in a smart way. I also like this map when I saw it, a national eviction map showing the amount of households that are threatened by eviction. And again, it's not showing the whole application. So whenever I hover over the map, it shows me already a little bit of the information, how many percentages threatened. Then when you click on it, you get this little information panel on the left with the highlights in it. But if you want to even have more information, more data, you can click on the button down below which says view more data, and you get a whole amount of data delivered to you. So this dashboard contains a lot of information and you can compare a lot of information, but the first time that you open it, it's actually a really clean map and there's not a lot going on, but still as a user you're able to find all the detailed information really quickly. So I thought this was a nice example. Another thing that we can do, if we have a lot of things, is think about this, the Gestalt law of proximity. And it actually means that visually we already do this. So we perceive groups of elements that are placed closer together. We perceive them as a group, that they belong together. So if we turn it around, please put stuff that belongs to that does kind of the same thing, put them together, because that creates a little bit more overview and the user is able to find the functionality more quickly. For example, this application, I'm again going to decrease it, has a little bit of a confusion of placement of buttons. So what's going on, for example, you have a button here that is for printing the map, so exporting it as a PDF. And then on the right top button, there's a button for sharing the map as an iframe. Which to me, as from a user experience design, it's for a user the same kind of action. Like I make a map and then I'm either going to export it or I'm going to make an iframe. So why are these placed like on the total opposite of the dashboard? Please put stuff like that together. What they also have is a button for adding external layers, which is also here, and then a button for adding the internal layers on the right. But for a user, it's both the same. I'm gonna add data to the map. So please group these kind of buttons together. So there is a lot going on here, and I think this application could just be improved by switching around some of the buttons. I think Windy is also doing a good job in this. There's also a lot of buttons and a really lot amount of information to be found. If you have the time, just check it out. But they really group together everything. So the information that can be found is on the right thing. And then there's even some extra context of the labels, of the animation, of the type of data that you want to show is on the bottom. And they really group together that they're like separate things and they have their own location and position on the map. I'm going to explain it a little bit more with more words. I think I always love using this example and giving names to things. So what I really love to talk about is the map context. So that would be for me the background. So creating the right context, choosing a different background, maybe putting administrative boundaries on your map, putting labels on your map. This is all creating the context of where you want to place your data in. And then on top of that comes the relevant data, so the relevant information that a user wants to look at. In case of Windy, that is, I want to look at the winds, or I want to look at the rain, or the thunderstorms. And then the context data, that's what's in the bottom, is do I want an animation, do I want to have labels of temperature, or do I want to have, I want to see airplanes on the map as well. So group together these kind of controls, really look at all the features like what is their eventual purpose and group them together. Also in this application I really try to do it so I have the relevant information on the left, like do I want to look at energy labels or the age of the buildings, and then the context configuration on the bottom. Do I want to show labels or not? Do I want to see a different background or not? Do I want to see it in 3D or not? These are all context configuration. In small summary again, If you have a lot of feature, a lot of data to show, use the interactivity to hide the information in like information layers in your application. Remove any redundant features. Think about every feature, like what does it do and do I really need it? If you don't really need it or you can't think of why you would need it, please remove it. And organize and group things together that belong together. So these were all of my examples. In the complete summary, like a lot of geo-data does not have to be slow. Action, reaction, always give a user feedback that it did something right. Less is more. Reduce it, make multiple applications maybe, make use of that interactivity to add more information to your application and group things together that belong together. And I even want to finish off with this quote that I got like 3 days ago from a colleague. Whenever you think you design something idiot-proof, somebody finds a bigger idiot. So yeah, stuff will go wrong anyways. I had some inspiration and some links in here. The presentation can be found online. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions or you want to discuss this with me, if you have better ideas, please come to me and drink a beer and we'll talk about it. Thank you.